iNaturalist is designed to make and share observations, get identifications, and keep track of the things you've seen. You can also learn and explore what other people have seen anywhere in the world. Your observations in iNaturalist contribute to our knowledge of biodiversity and the distribution of species in Louisiana and across the globe. Your observations are also official records of a species occurrence. And in the process, you learn about the species and the habitat as you are observing them. iNaturalist and all the data is free to you and everyone. Alright, so what is an observation? An observation is a photo or a sound recording of a wild organism. Emphasis is on wild organism. The organism can be in any stage of life. A good observation in iNaturalist has these 5 criteria. Evidence, such as a photo or sound recording, the date and time that the observation was made, the specific location that it was made, the identification of the organism, and the fact that the organism is wild. There are other fun observation types that you can make that show evidence of an organism that aren't a photo of the organism itself. For example, paw prints are great. You can tell that this is a raccoon paw print. Or how about these nuts? A squirrel moved it away from the tree, yet you can still identify it as an overcup oak. Or you have this dead animal and its skeleton can be identified as an opossum. And you have these growths on this cypress tree, and those are a very specific gall. Human influence is a reality in our world, and it's okay to make observations of wild organisms that are interacting with human landscapes. For example, you can post observations of wild birds that visit your bird feeders. Or you can run a moth sheet and post observations of moths that are attracted to your lights. Or trail cameras. They are a great way to make observations, and a human wasn't even present when the picture was taken. Now for a quick walkthrough on how to make an observation in the app. Well, I'm traipsing through the woods and I see these delicate winter plants. I'm going to take pictures with my phone's camera because that way I can go through all the photos, delete anything that's blurry, and crop the photos to help with identification. I'm also going to take pictures of the tops of the leaves and the undersides of the leaves to help with identification. Cool, look at this one, it's purple underneath. Let's upload that trillium plant. Open the app, then select the Observe button at the bottom. Then select Photo Library. It will pull up my photo library and I'll select the 2 images I took of that one plant. Click the Add button and then it will open the observation card. Now you select what did you see. iNaturalist will give you a suggestion. I know that this is the first species at the bottom. I'm going to pick that one. But if you're unsure, you can select the genus or just type something generic like plant. Looks like I have all the elements of a good observation, so I'm going to click Share and add it to the iNaturalist database. Now for a quick demonstration of how to make an observation on the website. Log in to iNaturalist.org and either click Upload or Add Observations. Now you'll add your photos either by dragging them from a folder onto the gray part or click the blue button to choose your photos from your files. I'm going to add 3 observations at once, so I'm going to load these 5 photos. One distinct advantage of the website is you can make edits to all the cards at once. For example, if I wanted to change the location for all of them, I could use the Select All button and make this change on the column on the left. Each observation is for one organism. Where I have multiple photos for one organism, I'm going to drag each card on top of each other, so each observation is one deck of cards. Now I'm going to make the identifications for each stack of cards. Now they're ready to submit by hitting the submit button. Funny how that works. Identifying your observation can be a little bit intimidating, but iNaturalist has a computer vision tool that will help you out. The artificial intelligence has been scanning the millions and millions of observations to learn what the best suggestions are. It helps to crop your photos to remove excess background noise that might confuse the artificial intelligence. It is also highly recommended that you take multiple photos at different angles of your organisms. For example, if you find a wildflower, take a photo of the flower, the leaves, and the stem, and any unusual features you see, such as thorns or hairs. Here's an example observation of a hoverfly. iNaturalist lists many suggestions. Notice the green words. Visually similar means that the artificial intelligence thinks it matches this species. See nearby means this species was seen near you in the last 3 months. If you don't like any of these, that's okay. You don't have to pick one. Instead, you can either pick the genus or type in a coarse observation like insect. You will soon discover there are a lot of look-alike species, and some of them cannot even be identified to the species level with the best photo in the world because they need to have their genitalia dissected in the lab. But that's okay, it's still a valuable observation. There is one asterisk, that the iNaturalist computer vision cannot make suggestions for audio observations. A human will have to help you with that. Sometimes people will post observations of something that is very obviously not a wild organism, and that's okay. iNaturalist is quite forgiving about that. A lot of beginners will make this mistake, but we want to encourage them to continue exploring nature. iNaturalist has a captive/cultivated setting that the community will select for not wild observations. This will convert the observation to a casual grade observation so researchers can exclude them. But let's say you find a ladybug on a landscape plant. That ladybug will still make a great observation because it's wild. iNaturalist has a Geo Privacy setting. Let's say you're making observations around your house and you don't want people to know your address. You can change the setting for that observation to obscured. In addition, iNaturalist automatically obscures rare and threatened species to prevent poaching. In this example observation of a box turtle, you can see it is a vulnerable species, and iNaturalist has automatically obscured its location. I could see the pin in the center where I observed it, but if someone else looked at this observation, they would see one of those circles in a random location within 22 kilometers of where I observed it. You can also tell it's obscured by the little dotted eye icon. iNaturalist also has a copyright setting. You can choose from 7 copyright settings, ranging from full copyright down to no copyright. You can set your default setting when you set up your account and adjust individual observations as needed. Since iNaturalist is all about public access, they encourage you to select no copyright or attribution copyright because it is best for research and education. The iNaturalist community is filled with professionals and amateurs, and it's really fun learning from all of them. Sometimes people are extremely helpful and will describe why an identification is a certain way. Other people are grumpy professors and they may be terse with their comments. You just never know what you're going to get. But just don't be offended if someone corrects your identification. Anyone in the iNaturalist community, including yourself, can view observations and make identifications. iNaturalist respects the amateur knowledge that is out there. There are some really key amateurs in our region that have incredible knowledge. The community will help provide identifications. If you have questions, you can ask someone. Just tag them with the @ symbol and their username in a comment, or you can send them a direct message. In this example, I found this strange plant with these weird little flowers coming out of the underside of the leaf. I just could not figure out what it was, and it was driving me crazy. So I tagged Richard Abbott and asked him, because I know he's a local plant expert. Richard told me that he thought the flowers were actually galls, and so he tagged the gall expert Megakyle. And Megakyle, even he was a little confused, so he tagged his other gall friend Dennis. And Dennis thought maybe it was an undescribed species. How cool is that? And then at the bottom you'll see Megakyle responded a month later with a link to where my unidentified species has been added to the Gall Former's website. Pretty awesome. Your observations become part of the massive iNaturalist database. And all of these points of data are free to anyone for learning, exploring, and research. Here you'll see the species page for the Cardinal Flower. You can see the heat map at the bottom of observations. At quick glance, you can see it's mostly found in the eastern US. At the top, you can see there are 17,734 observations of this plant that you can look through. And there's some chart data that you can look at. At a quick glance, you can see that this plant is mostly observed in August, when it's probably blooming and really easy for people to see. Below the chart, you'll see buttons where you can explore all kinds of additional information about this flower. And also at the top right, you can filter the results for just Louisiana or the parish that you live in. This observation of a cardinal flower I found at Waddell is a research grade species occurrence record. Let's compare it to one I found at the herbarium at LSU. Both observations have evidence of a wild organism. In mine, I have a photograph of the plant. In the herbarium sample, they collected the actual plant. Mine has been identified to the research grade, and so has the herbarium sample. You can also see that the observation was made by me, and the date and the location. And on the herbarium specimen, you can see that John Pruski made this observation on October 3rd, 1979 at the Burden Plantation off of Essen. iNaturalist observations go way beyond just the iNaturalist database. Research grade observations are linked to the Global Biodiversity Information Facility. GBIF is not actually like a building facility, it's also a database, but it's compiling citizen science records like iNaturalist and eBird with research records like museum collections. Scientists use GBIF to bring all these together for their research. If you remember from earlier, a good observation has evidence, date and time, location, identification, and it's wild. Each observation has this data quality assessment panel. For example, if this was the data quality assessment for that Mike the Tiger observation made by a student, you could click the organism is wild row and change it from a thumbs up to a thumbs down. GBIF shows that 1,300 peer-reviewed papers have been published using iNaturalist data. That is incredible. Locally, iNaturalist data is used for land planning. For example, Breck uses iNaturalist to collect data about species in the conservation areas. They can collect data from flyovers showing the types of vegetation and things like that, but it won't tell you if there are any rare species, the individual types of species, invasive species. Only people making observations on the ground can provide that data. Breck encourages and promotes the use of iNaturalist in the parks. They even host a BioBlitz every year where everyone goes crazy making observations over a 2-day period. Not only is iNaturalist fun for your personal discovery, when you have so many people looking all over the world, you're bound to find things you're not expecting. For example, this fish. In California, a man and his son were beachcombing. They took a picture of this washed up fish that they thought was a common mola mola. They've seen these before and didn't think anything of it. But then the scientist took notice. It looked different. So they asked the man to go back and take more photos and get specific measurements of the fish. And he lit up the fisheries world because apparently he had only the second observation of this hoodwinker mola in the northern hemisphere. Normally it's only found around Australia and New Zealand. So what a fun find. And then the other photo is Karen. She was working at the Waddill Habitat Restoration Workday and came across these orchids. And she lit up the scientific world because apparently this is a very rare jug orchid. And Brian Early with LDWF came out and got samples, took genetic samples, and all that fun stuff. So who knows? You just never know when you're out there looking and making observations. I highly encourage you to visit the iNaturalist website and tinker with all the data features. Here you can see the heat map of all the observations in Louisiana. And you can drill in by parish, neighborhood, street, park, anything. Here you can see the observations for East Baton Rouge Parish. There are 72,877 observations, over 4,000 species, over 3,000 identifiers, and almost 3,000 people have contributed this data. iNaturalist presents you this data in order of the most observations to the least. So the eastern gray squirrel is winning right now. Last year it was the green anole. Keep in mind, of course, that these observations are going to be things that people can easily take photos of. You know that there are a lot more mosquitoes than there are squirrels. Here I've narrowed down the search to just the butterflies and moths of East Baton Rouge Parish. You can see the monarch has been the most observed in this parish. Now let's say you're really interested in that Tursus sphinx down at the bottom. You can click on that and learn more about it. Here you'll see the overview species page for the Tursus sphinx. In the top left, you can see the taxonomy broken out with links. You can follow those links to see what other moths it's related to. The photos, you can see the main flashy picture that they select. And then below that, you can view more and see all different life stages and all kinds of pictures and all the observations that are made and uploaded into iNaturalist. To the right, you can see I've limited the data just to Louisiana. You can see Royal Tyler. He has made 28 observations of this moth, and he's the leader right now. This S. Tomlins person has done the most identifications for this species. And you can see that the last one observed was on December 13th in Louisiana. There are 310 observations in Louisiana, and you can look at them all, or you can select the View Yours button, which I think is a neat tool, and just view the observations of this species that you have made. You can see the seasonality chart, get a good idea of when you can see them out flying, which looks like late July. You can also change the charts for different information, and you can follow the links at the bottom for even more mind-boggling information. Identifications are the other important piece of the iNaturalist puzzle. You can make identifications too. Let's say you're a birder. You can go through and filter the observations that need identification and limit them to just birds. For example, you can see Janine here has posted a recording of an eastern bluebird. You can listen to it and agree with her identification or suggest a different identification. iNaturalist is an amazing tool for learning about the species you observe in the world around you. It's also an excellent resource for tracking all the species that you find. For example, I've sorted my observations by my latest obsession, which is moths. I have found 532 species so far, and it shows me that the tulip tree beauty is the one I have seen the most. iNaturalist also has a life list feature. where you can sort your observations by a taxonomic list or a taxonomic tree. Here I sorted by sedges, and I can see I've made 31 observations of sedges. And you can also see how many you haven't observed yet in Louisiana. So that's a fun little checklist you can make there. And lastly, a really important feature of iNaturalist is projects. You can create projects that will collect observations with very specific criteria, such as a place, date and time, or a species. Here is an example project called LMN GBR Observations. It is set up to collect observations made by our members anywhere in the world. It's really fun to go through it and see what people are observing. You can see we made over 50,000 observations so far and over 6,000 species. It's really fun, and after your exercise today, I'll add you to it. All right, let's go give it a try.